Welcome, and on behalf of the native sons and daughters of Greater Kansas City, we want to welcome you to this dedication of a very historic marker in a very historic location in our town. So thanks for coming. A couple of words about the native sons and daughters of Greater Kansas City. It's an 83-year-old organization that is, and I'll just read them. Let's probably get the first pass. I'll read the mission so I don't mess it up. It was then, and it continues to be dedicated to the historic preservation of the unique and rich heritage of the Greater Kansas City metropolitan area through education, advocacy, and restoration. Now, one of the ways that we do education is markers like this. It tells you what is the history and what has been going on in the location that the marker is placed. We generally do one or two, generally two a year, and we've been doing this for a good many years. So there's something like, over 50 of these markers placed around the Greater Kansas City area. There's going to be more. We're going to do a couple more next year, and a couple more after that. So that's what we do in our mission of education. I want to introduce, let's see, we've got Gary Hicks. Where's Gary? There he is. He's hard to run down. He's a member of the Markers Committee. And let me introduce some other people here. First of all, Mayor Charlie Wheeler is here, and good to have him. In fact, if you look over here to the side, you'll see his name on that airport. So he's in the right place. Thanks for coming, Charlie. Gary, you waving at me? Yeah, whatever. Let me introduce you to the president of the Greater, the Native Sons of Greater Kansas City, Carl DiCapo. Yeah. And a past president in Chuck Eddy, and a past president in John Dillingham, and a past president Gary Hicks, and a coming president in a year or so, Diane Pepper, who lives here in North Town. I'm probably missing somebody. Oh, hi, Dan. All right, Dan Sturdivant, a past president of the Native Sons and Daughters.
We all stick together.
Scott, yes. Scott Wagner, I'm going to introduce you in just a minute. Thanks for being here. I want to make a remark here about our markers. We value very highly partnering when we do these historical markers. These markers are not about us, the Native Sons and Daughters of Greater Kansas City. It's not our marker. We don't want it to be. It's about where it's located, the people, the history of those locations, and we want to partner with those people or those entities or those towns or whatever and make it a mutual interest in the marker so that it's just not our marker. It's our marker, you see. I think it's really important. And here we have partnered basically with the people of Harlem who've been interested in the history of Harlem. And one of the most prominent of those is Charlie Broomfield. He's right here in the red, and you're going to hear from him after a while. He was born right over, 3 blocks from here, and grew up there. And he survived, as you can tell. And Charlie is a former Clay County Commissioner. Am I saying that right? Okay. Anyway, it is wonderful to be able to partner with other people like Jason Withington here in the black. Jason helped so much with the arrangements and connecting with people all over town in setting this up. Thank you, Jason. We've got Bob Jones here in the yellow jacket, and he helped partner as well. Some of our partnering is financial, but it's a lot more than that. It's not just financial. It's the interest in it and the research that goes in. You know, it takes a long time to do the research and edit these things. There's two sides to this marker. It's a lot of words in this thing, and they need to be correct, and they need to be edited correctly. And it takes a long time. And Charlie and I worked for a long time, and helped with some others to get that done. I want to also thank our other partners, officials of Kansas City, who, this is Kansas City land we're on here, and they've agreed to all of that. Very anxious to. The officials here at the airport, and specifically Mike Roper, who is the airport manager, and Mike's not here today. I think he's in Las Vegas or somewhere. And Chris Blackbird, thanks to him, because he installed a post here and dug the hole and searched for utilities and so forth under it. Very important, so Chris was a big help as well. And last, and probably least, my name is Ross Marshall, and I'm past president of the greater the Native Sons and Daughters as well. But I'm also chair of the Markers Committee, and I enjoy this very much. It's fun to do things that preserve the history and heritage, and I enjoy it very much. It's now my privilege to introduce Mayor Pro Tem of Kansas City, Scott Wagner. Scott, would you come up, please?
I'm so glad to be here, and for a number of reasons, not the least of which was as a former member of the Native Sons and Daughters of Kansas City, it is great to be at a marker dedication. And I was just thinking before, yeah, I didn't think you would, but you know, Carl, when I was on the board, a member, you made me work.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did, and John did, and all of you guys did, so now I'm afraid I just got targeted again. But at any rate, one of the best parts of being a member of this organization is doing things just like this. Because what these markers represent is a way to lift the veil of the mystery of Kansas City history. And I would tell you that when I would remark from time to time about Harlem, and I would say, have you ever been to Harlem? I said, well, I haven't been to New York in a while. I said, no, I mean in Kansas City. And then we would begin to talk about the role of Harlem in Kansas City's development. Although I did learn something today about you, Charlie. I did not know that you sprung from right here. Born and raised. Well, is that on the marker? Well, we'll add one a little bit later for you. But in all seriousness, it is a great opportunity for the city to explain a little bit more about its great history, and it is represented by this marker here today. Well, then we're glad to have you here. Thank you so much. Your house is still standing, and we will have a party. No, I'm kidding. But it's good to have you here, and it's so nice to have you here. And again, it is a great opportunity for us to explain that history, but I do have to give some credit before I step aside to both Charlie and to Jason, who have fought for this marker and who have fought for this area, because this is an area that is underutilized, shall we say. There is great opportunity here because of the resurgence of downtown, and where else can you be without having to deal with downtown traffic and maybe those downtown rents than just right over here. So it is my hope that this is one of many things that we may celebrate in Harlem, and so I want to thank you both for your advocacy for today and on an ongoing basis. With that, thank you all for your hard work. Thank you to the Native Sons and Daughters of Kansas City for the work they do and continue to do. And we'll talk a little later, Carl, I know, but keep up the good work.
Sign him up to, and anyone else that wants to join.
And anyone else, so don't let him just tackle me. Make sure that he tackles all of you. But it is a labor of love that they do. They love to do it, and I'm glad that you were all here to participate today. Thank you very much.
For being here and for speaking to us very much. The next on the schedule here is Julie Justice. Okay, Julie, 4th District Councilwoman. Good to have you here, Julie.
Thank you. It's so great to see everyone here today. Thank you so much for coming out. You know, when we're asked to do things like this, I always love the fact that we get to celebrate something at an exact moment in time. As we stand here today, I wonder, you know, what all paths led to get us to this exact moment. I mean, obviously we have residents, we have folks who have been advocates, we have community leaders, and it has all come together at once. And so as we stand here today, I want to celebrate everything that brought us to this exact moment, meaning our history and how we got here. I want to celebrate how from this moment forward, we are going to use this to launch into our future, whether it's the future of Harlem, of this area, of the 4th District, of the entire city. So I just want to thank everybody for all of the hard work that you've done to get us to this exact moment in time. I know that this is the first of several good things to come, and on behalf of the City of Kansas City and the 4th District, I want to thank you for all that you've done to make this happen today. So thank you all very much.
Charlie Broomfield. Charlie was born and raised over here about, as we said a minute ago, 3 blocks away. And he's been really interested for a long time in the history of Harlem. He's a member of the Native Sons and Daughters of Greater Kansas City, which really was the link that got us started here on this. And this took a couple of years after we first talked about doing this. And he did a lot of additional research in the meantime, and some others, and I helped and all that. So it's been fun working with him. If you don't like Charlie Broomfield, you don't like anyone. I have really enjoyed working with him, and he's going to come and tell us a little something about what this marker is about, but in general, the history of this very historic site here, which really is as old as Kansas City. It's as old as when town of Kansas started across on the other side of the river. So he's going to get into all of that history and tell us about Harlem. Charlie, come please.
Well, to the native sons and daughters of Kansas City, we Harlemites and historical interested people owe a lot. Ross, as he said, has just worked his heart out on this thing, as have several other people, and we're honored by the interest of the native sons and daughters of Kansas City. So thank you very, very much. I'm not the only one that was born and raised in Harlem that's here. There's a whole bunch of you, so raise your hand. Yeah. All right. Quite a few Harlem people here. And of course, Louis Grace is kind of the, he's our leader, so to speak. I want to mention that Louis was recently honored by France. He received the Legion of Honor, having been a veteran of World War II, fighting in France. So we're honored to have him. I also want to mention our state representative, Laurie Arthur. Laurie, are you here? Thanks for coming. And Laurie just lives up north. Well, I could talk all night about Harlem, and some of you have listened to me tell everything I know. I'm in the process of writing a book about this little community, and I'm going to do my best to go quickly here. But there are some very, very important things about this little community behind us that it's unfortunate. And as a kid growing up, a lot of questions were asked by me and others about our little community and how it came about, and it's just it's pretty fabulous stuff. And I think if enough, I think there's so much history here that once people of the Kansas City metropolitan area learn about it, they'll be even more interested. Let me get my paper down here. Here's what I want to do quickly, and I promise I'll go fast. I have in my hand an article from the Kansas City Star dated March the 12th, 1913. That's a long time ago. And I want to compliment the Kansas City Star. I don't know if they're here, but if you follow the history of Harlem, it seems like every couple of years the Kansas City Star would send a reporter over to see what's going on in Harlem. going way back. As a matter of fact, I have articles back in the early 1800s. But this particular article is the one that fascinated me the most, because the Star sent a reporter over, and he said that his goal was to look up the oldest resident of Harlem to find out what he could find out about the history of our little town. So that was 1913, remember. He sought out a gentleman by the name of Rosenbaum. And the Rosenbaum family has always been pretty prominent in Harlem and in Clay County. Some of the descendants are here, including Louis Grace. And some of you will remember Wendell Rosenbaum, who served in the legislature, represented this area. And that was the family. But the basic thing that the reporter asked Mr. Rosenbaum, and I'm convinced that Mr. Rosenbaum at that time was probably in his 70s at least. And so that would have taken him way, way back. And the reporter asked him, well, what do you know about Harlem? And these are some of the words found in the article. And this is the important, matter of fact, it'll be the name of my book. Harlem was Harlem when Kansas City was Westport Landing. Let me repeat it. Harlem was Harlem when Kansas City was Westport Landing. When I saw that, I thought, what in the world is this guy talking about? You know, because as kids growing up over here in Harlem, we looked across that river to that fabulous skyline. That was one of the things we saw when we got up in the morning and when we went to bed at night. Beautiful city. And here we are on the north side of the river. Well, basically, it is a fact that I have a map here that I could show you. Harlem was identifiable in 1822. That was the time that a ferry boat was crossing that river, going back and forth. And most of you know that some of the major ferry boats before the old Hannibal Bridge was built, and by the way, this is the second one, the ferry boats came back and forth across that river, and the reason they did, among other things, to transport people and animals and food, products for the people who were on the other side, was that one of the first railroads in this part of the country came down from the north, came down from Cameron. And there were 5 different railroads that stopped here before the bridge was built. Before the bridge was built. And so there were lucrative contracts between the railroads and the ferry boat people to get everything back and forth across the river. The first bridge to cross the Missouri River was built from Harlem over to Kansas City. Let me quickly add, I don't know about some of the rest of the Harlem people, but as I grew up in Harlem, I thought Harlem was a part of North Kansas City. But it was not, and it was not a part of Kansas City until I believe about 1950 brewing. So Harlem was here, as the sign marker will indicate, it was not incorporated. But at one time there was as many as 700 people living in this community. So when John McCoy started Westport in 1833, there wasn't much activity. The Chotos had some trading posts here, but that's about all there was. And then John McCoy came north of the river, came to the river bank, and started Westport Landing. I have also in my hand a copy of an original abstract of a part of Harlem. And this land that we're standing on now was given by the United States government in 1836 to the Reverend Isaac McCoy, who was the father of John McCoy that started Westport. Well, it was a great place to grow up. We had some wonderful, wonderful experience. I've said this to many people before. Harlem was like a great big family. we were bounded on the north by the railroad tracks, literally and figuratively, bounded on the south by the river, and on either side the railroad tracks also. So it was a great big family. I lived on this end of Harlem. Some of my friends lived on the other end of Harlem, like the Joneses, and several blocks back and forth. But when you grew up in Harlem, if you did anything, you got out of line. Everybody passed word, and if Bob Jones's dad didn't get on my case, he would let my dad know that he should have gotten on my case. We had wonderful times here, wonderful people, honest people, hard-working people. A lot of people walked back and forth to North Kansas City to work in the factories. And early on, and this is on the sign, the Harlem Baptist Church came into existence. That was the center of activity. And I'm proud to say to you today and to introduce you, the old Harlem Church was in decline for a good many years, but something brought us together, and we have a congregation at the Harlem Baptist Church now, and I want to introduce, say hello to Brother Gabriel. Gabriel has a congregation of about 50 or more people that use the Harlem Baptist Church. Gabriel is from Sudan, Africa, and they're doing a great job of taking care of the church and holding services there. Well, I said I wouldn't talk very long, and we're going to stop, but I am going to do one thing. I want to pass this picture around, because many people always wondered where Harlem came from. In 1990, I got on an airplane and I flew to Amsterdam, Holland, because I heard that Harlem was named after Harlem in the Netherlands. And sure enough, when I got there and got on a train and went out to Harlem, it looked so much there like it looked here. And Mr. Rosenbaum said, when they came here from the old country, this area looked so much like Harlem in the Netherlands that that's where Harlem got its name. I'll pass that around. All right, thank you, Ross.
All right.